there's a lot of things happening in the world. There's changes in global climate, and I don't have to tell anything about how hot topic the CO2 discussions in a lot of European countries is. But also energy consumption. A lot is against consumption of carbon fuels. Some countries are setting very strict targets on CO2 regulations. But of course the automotive industry, who is completely changing at the moment. Then also there's different expectations from customers. They don't want to have the traditional car anymore, or a lot of them, especially also based on incentives or tax regulations, are open to new vehicles. Same for government regulations, who have a huge impact on how a customer in a certain market behaves. Very good examples for example, Norway or Netherlands. And also opposite, where in countries where there's no incentive, that there is no demand for EVs. Also simpler expectations. I don't think that a lot of people still want to wait 1 or 2 years for an electric car. It's really now time that we start delivering very quickly, and that's also something what we can do. And last but not least is pricing for EVs. Currently it's for the happy few, for the freaks, or for people where they have a very advantage in the incentives. And that's also our main task for the next couple of months, to introduce a car that is really affordable for a lot of people. And of course, there's also infrastructure and again the pricing of those cars. So we also have some challenges. For example, that's something that you probably see very close by, that the whole automotive industry is changing. New vehicles, you saw that also probably on the IAA, a lot of new announcements. And it's sort of changing the whole industry while the car is still running. So you have to change the tire while it's driving, which is quite interesting because it's very, very difficult to do. And what we do not want is to overpromise and underdeliver. We'll try to do the opposite. We're not going to make any fairy tales. We really would like to start something new, a new era for our brand, and also not forget completely our history. So let me show you what that has been over the past few years. So one of the most asked questions is, of course, MG. That's this old sporty car from the 60s. And what does that have to do with an electric SUV? Well, we should not forget that back then, when MG was launched, it was a car launched as an affordable sports car for the mainstream consumer. If we would do that now also with a sports car, it would be very strange, because that's not where the main market is. So that's also why we are using the hottest segment in the market and making that in an SUV or in an electrified version. It would be, of course, very easy to make this electric sporty car or the sports convertible, but currently there's no market for that. There's not a huge demand statistically in Europe. And also our main target groups are not really the convertible car markets. It would not be very wise to send a lot of convertible electric vehicles to Norway, for example, because half of the year it would be difficult to drive them. So that's really our objective also with the new relaunch of MG, is to relaunch it as an affordable EV for the masses. So creating an entirely new category. And also no fairy tales. We're not promising, we're not showing you cars downstairs which will arrive somewhere September next year or much later, or we are not going to make any strange promises about expectations on prices or specifications. What you today see, you already can get in the next 2 months in 2 markets, and we'll also show you later the price. So you might ask why MG. To give you that a little bit more understanding on that, I'll try to explain also our parent company. We have, of course, SAIC Motor Europe, and I'll show you a little bit introduction on that.
SAIC started in the automobile industry in the 1940s as one of only a few car makers in China. Since then, SAIC has grown into a Fortune Global 100 company and become one of the big 4 state-owned Chinese car makers. In China, we have 15 manufacturing plants, 7 research and development centers, and 1 proving ground. Worldwide, we have 2 innovation labs, 4 research and development manufacturing centers, and 10 marketing and service centers. In 2018, sales reached over 7 million units, 277,000 of which were in overseas markets, a 62.4% increase from 2017. In 2019, SAIC will open a 4th MG motor factory in China and will specialize in producing 100% electric SUVs and all electric production sports cars.
So SAIC Motor, for a lot of Europeans, is very unknown. To be honest, if you would have asked me 2 or 3 years ago who was SAIC, I also would give you the answer that I would not know them. But it's one of the largest car manufacturers in the world. We produced over 7 million cars last year. So that's quite an achievement. So if you compare that, that's really the number 7 in the world. We have a market share of 24% in the Chinese market. And since we just recently started to export the MGs also globally, we're quite proud to already have 277,000 sold last year, which was an increase of 62% over 2017. And of course, this is also our objective to keep on growing with double digits over the next couple of years. So that's also this is the part only about car production, but we do more already in China. So we have three main pillars. One is electrification, the second one is sharing, and of course the third one, not unimportant, connectivity. So when we look to electrification, we already sold 140,000 EVs last year, mainly in China. We have patents in EV, plug-in, and also in fuel cells. So we have all the 3 powertrains. Currently in China, we have a product portfolio of 5 plug-in hybrids, 7 electric vehicles, and also 4 fuel cell vehicles. So we are ready for the next decades to make sure that we can supply all powertrains that are necessary for new energy vehicles. So if we look to sharing, we already have in China an e-commerce platform that annually sold last year 80,000 units in 3,100 connected online sellers. So the platform sold 80,000 units and the delivery took place in one of the 3,100 outlets. And when it comes to sharing, we already run a cooperation with 1,400 ride-hailing vehicles. And we are the sole automotive Asian manufacturer who is already a member of the 5G Association, which is super important to be on the joint platform for connectivity service in the future. But let's get back to the car, and more important, I'll show you a short clip on how the car looks. So, and also to introduce you really to the technical part of the vehicle, it would not be very wise if I do that, because I have no clue about really the the specific engineering stuff of the vehicle. So I would like to introduce Dr. Poe, who is the Chief Engineer for the EV platform at SAIC Motor Technical Center, and he will take you through the technical specification of the car. And also after the presentation, we are all available, of course, to give individual questions. Dr. Poe, welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for your coming here. It's very nice being here to introduce our product. My position is the Chief Engineer of the electrical vehicle platform in SAIC Technical Center. I'm also the Chief Engineer for the electrical propulsion system of the MG ZS EV. There are two motivations to develop new energy vehicle. One is the environment protection. The second is energy saving. For consumers, especially the energy saving is meaningful because the use cost is low than to the conventional vehicle. It's money saving for consumers. Next, I will talk something unique about our product. I will focus on three parts: safety, efficiency, and economy. Let's see first the safety. It's safe. Almost all the safety issue about electrical vehicle is related to the battery. Our battery has 5 safety protection design. The first is we have 122 battery safety test items according to the standards like as UL 2580 and China National Standards GBT. The second, the battery of the MG ZS EV have 360-degree battery pack protection. That means all around the battery we have a protection design. For example, on the bottom of the battery we have a protection shield made of steel to prevent from the bump percussion of the sharp things. And also we have a strong beam around the battery and work with the vehicle body design to protect the battery from the car crash. And the third one, we have intelligent thermal management system for the battery. That means the battery has liquid cooling and heating. It keeps the battery in the suitable temperature during its work. Ensure its output power and high efficiency, and the most important, keep the battery in the safe temperature. And the fourth one, we use a battery cell with 4 safety protection design. For example, that includes the anti-explosion valve and strengthened aluminum cell shell and short circuit protection design, and also the isolation film around the cells. The last one, we have dual thermal propagation protection design. That means, as you know, every product has a defect rate. For the battery cell, the defect rate is at parts per billion level for cells. The battery MG EV use around 100 cells. That means the defect rate of the battery pack is parts per 10 million level. So the thermal runaway of the cells, there's very, very little possibilities to happen to the cell to run away. But if it happens, we have a countermeasure to block it, to keep the passenger safe. So the battery in the CSEV, MG CSEV is very, very, very safe. Now let's see the drive system is efficient. First, the electrical motor is the type of PMSM, permanent magnetic synchronous motor. It's efficient. It's more efficient than the induction motor. And in the motor, the winding of the motor is hairpin winding. That means the cross section of the wire is prismatical. That means the copper field factor is raised about 50% than the conventional winding. The conventional winding is used the circular cross-section winding. And let's see the battery pack. We use the prismatic cells. It can use the volume more efficiently than the cylindrical cells. Because the space in the car is very limited for battery. So that's very important. And the battery pack also uses a cast aluminum frame. That's keep the battery light and lead to the lightweight body, the vehicle body. The weight of the battery around 280 kilograms. And the energy density of the battery pack is 161 kilowatt hours per kilograms. But it's very high. This keeps the vehicle lightweight and improve the energy efficiency, lower the energy consumption of the vehicle. And plus our intelligent control strategy, we have 3 region level for the driver to choice, strong, medium, and low. All this leads to excellent energy consumption rate, 13.8 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Of course, under the NEDC test condition. I would like to talk about economical. It's economical because we have the competitive components prices due to the cycles supply chain. As you know, the annual sales volume of the new energy vehicle in China is about 50% of the total volume in the world. That means the supply chain in China is good. And also we have a joint JVC with the biggest battery manufacturer in China, named the CATL. That keeps us a sufficient battery supply. And because the vehicle propulsion system is efficient, so we can get as much as possible electrical range with a smaller battery. So this is the achievements with regarding to the intelligent properties during the last decades. So the MG ZS EV may be not the one who runs fastest or farthest, but it really provides a great value for the money. That's all. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Boom. I think one thing that we should not underestimate is last slide with the supply chain, because that's something where we are really proud of, is that we don't have to set it up, it's already there. We already have, for more than 15 years, the supply chain in place, which is one of the key elements of electric vehicles, or all new energy vehicles, where a lot of other OEMs are just now starting since 3 or 4 years to set up the supply chain, to find a provider for the batteries, to build factories to produce those batteries. That's something which is already in place in our parent company. So let's now talk about MG in Europe. First, the market. Like all other regions, CO2 is of course a key criteria to give a good entrance for electric vehicles. All countries, all regions in the world have CO2 targets set. One very strict one in Europe is a 95 grams for next year, which mean that there will be a lot of incentivized vehicles in the next few years. Some countries are even banning fossil fuels for cities, diesel bans. In certain German cities there's a lot of commotion about diesel vehicles not being able to enter in the market, which also leads to a lot of difference in consumer behavior in those markets. And of course all other regions have also different attitudes these days towards fossil fuels. When we take one step back, before we already, Dr. Poor also mentioned, if you look at this number, it's quite impressive. So 430,000 cars, electric cars, were sold last year, or this first half year in China. That's more than all other countries combined. So that's pretty impressive. So that means that the supply chain is there and also the knowledge is there. Because there are that many cars, so we as an OEM, of course, want to build them correctly so they don't break down and are safe and also consumer friendly. So it's 56% of the global volume of EVs. Second is 23%, with the majority, of course, in Norway and Netherlands. It's very likely that the other markets also will increase over the next few years, because if we look to annual data, it's all double-digit growth. And also because of a lot of incentives that are in place in all these different markets. In one country, the incentive is sufficient, like Norway, like Netherlands at the moment, but of course will change over the next few years. In other countries, the incentives are insufficient. Like, for example, in Germany, where there is an incentive, but there's no penalty on combustion engines. So that is something which really would also help the sales of electric vehicles. Very similar to France. There is a penalty for combustion engines, but it's by far not sufficient to really get a lot of attraction by normal consumers. So, if you look to the car, I give you a couple of the specific specs. It's a B segment SUV, and if you take really the three primary USPs compared to the competitors, the number one is affordability. So we really want to set a new price range of the car. The second one is availability. It's not going to, like I mentioned before, it's not that if you order the car somewhere in October, you will really receive it also this year. And the third one is it's fully equipped. It will have only 2 trim levels, already from the base version, fully equipped with a lot of equipment, which I will tell a bit more about later. So if you go through the specs, we have 2 trim levels, a luxury version and a comfort version, 5 colors. So in total we have 2 different configurations, which makes it also easy to take a stock in Europe and also make it easy for customers to make the configurations themselves. Compared to competitors, it has the best-in-class trunk space and also driver and passenger space in this B segment. Of course, like any electric car, it's pretty quick when it comes to city driving from 0 to 50. But it still is also a very comfortable city car in the B segment, being very agile and narrow. Then of course it's the hottest segment in the European market, which is a B segment SUV. And also quite remarkable is 85 kilowatt fast charging, especially in the segment. It's much better than any of the competitors at the moment. Of course, in the future we'll also work on even faster speeds, but this is also the speed that is currently very acceptable in the market. Because if you, for example, go now in most of the Dutch or Norwegian fast chargers you go, it's like maximum 150 kilowatt if you can find it, but the majority is 50 to 100 kilowatt. 85 kilowatt fast charging. So it might not have the longest range, but it has much faster charging. So if I have the battery almost empty, then I don't have to wait so long I mean, within 10 minutes you have already quite a lot of range back in the car. It has, of course, regeneration of the power. And in the luxury version, it is the only car in the segment with this panoramic roof. And of course, it's fully equipped with standard with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It even has standard level 2.5 autonomous driving. So adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist is all based on the standard version. So next topic is the launch in Europe. It's going to be rather simple. We'll start, of course, with the two most important EV countries at the moment, Netherlands and Norway. And right after that, late Q4, beginning Q1, we'll start with additional markets like Sweden, Denmark, France, Germany and Belgium. We'll start with online sales, or online request for sales. And we will announce in the next 2 weeks where the locations will be. Currently we'll foresee 1 brand store in Oslo, 2 in the Netherlands, of being 1 in Amsterdam, and the second one we will announce in 2 weeks. And also we will do that with local partners. So we will announce that in 2 weeks who will be the local partner and from what moment you can order the cars in those countries. And most of the cars are already on its way. By train, by boat. They are arriving some of them are arriving at the end of this month, and most of them are arriving next month. Really, delivery can start very quickly. So that means Q4 this year will start the ZS. Okay. But that's not the only one. We also will have more cars coming in the next 2 years. So in 2020 and 2021, we will have additional cars coming. That's already planned. I think we're still missing one thing. That's the price. So we'll start with a comfort version for €29,990. It's going to be one price for Europe. So also in the future, when you see this will be the base price without incentives in other markets. To give the example for Norway, that's 229,000 NOK. For the comfort price, and 249,000 NOK for the luxury price. And the luxury car will be 31,990. By the way, the luxury version is the one that we expect most in the Nordics, because that has standard heated seats, which is quite a requirement for the Nordics. So before you head off to the test drive or the one-on-one interviews, we of course also want to give you the opportunity to have some open Q&As. But let me give you one more short video about the highlights of the car.
Introducing the new MG ZS EV. Traditional hatchbacks are boring. The MG ZS EV is a dynamic SUV designed to electrify city driving. The battery fast charges to 80% in just 40 minutes. It accelerates from 0 to 50 kilometers an hour in 3.1 seconds. The MG ZS EV has 2 tailor-made trims and 5 bold colors. The MG ZS EV has proudly put its name in lights. The MG ZS EV is available now.
So, questions, because I can imagine that there are a couple. Yeah?
Thank you. Hello, I'm Julian from Autoplus from France. I have a question dealing with after sale.
Yeah.
How can we manage it after buying it maybe next year? Do you have partners for after sale, or I don't know, assistance if something gets wrong in the car? I don't know.
Yeah, good question. We have a couple of different answers. One is for Norway and Netherlands. We will announce the partner in the next 2 weeks, and that partner also has already full coverage when it comes to maintenance and repair. Especially in countries like Norway, which is not very small, you need to have in the main cities like Bergen, Kristiansand, Stavanger, good locations, and that's already secured. For Netherlands, since we only will have 2 branch stores, the maintenance will be done also at workshops of that partner, and they have more than 100 workshops in the Netherlands. For France and Germany, it will be a little bit different because we will not search for local partners, or not for one partner for the entire country, because we will first focus on Paris only, and for Germany only on some big cities like Hamburg, Berlin, Düsseldorf, Dresden, and then slowly going to the south, because that's also where the infrastructure is. So that means that after sales will be done by independent service providers. And the second part, which is also very important, we do that like any other OEM. We will have, of course, a road assistance company providing also support when something breaks down. So we use the same kind of companies that all other OEMs are using.
So if we have something at, I don't know, 300 kilometers from Paris, you can send someone for assistance?
For example, if the cars would break down, then you would call this road assistance service. They would do like with any other branch. They would put you to a central location of this road assistance. They would give you or a rental car, or they would bring you to the nearest hotel, or even if it's not too far away, they would take you to a taxi to somewhere else. That's how all the processes are with the road assistance companies.
And how many years for the warranty in Europe?
5 years, 150,000 kilometers. On the battery, 8 years, also 150,000 kilometers, and 10 years for anti-perforation for the body.
Thank you.
For anti-corrosion. Anti-corrosion.
Michael Schenner from Sweden. Can you give us the range in WLTP?
Yeah, it's 263 kilometers WLTP. Yeah, there was a do we know the WLTP consumption? It's not calculated.
We not have it yet.
Yeah, it's 13.8 on NEDC, but not on WLTP. Yeah, I think that you have. Do you want to keep the microphone?
Yeah. Sorry.
No problem.
One more question. Do you have, I don't know, advertisement campaign, TV or radio, I don't know, magazine? For France or Europe, I don't know.
So we start with the markets where we do starting sales. We already published an advertisement this Tuesday because there was a specific tax day in the Netherlands, which is annually always on the third Tuesday of September. Similar will happen pretty soon in Denmark in October. but we'll also start campaigning as soon as we really start selling the vehicle there. So the first, we already are trying to buy the media buy-in for Norway and Netherlands starting October. And then of course, as soon as, it would not be very wise to already start doing a lot of campaigns in France when we are not selling any cars. That would be burning a bit of money. But as soon as we have closed the agreement with the partner for Paris, then we start also supporting them with media. Because that's still quite a big task to really get awareness of the MG brand, because it has been away for quite a while.
Do you expect this price to be lowered in the next year or the next 2 years?
Honestly, I expect that it will be a little bit higher, because this is really like we wanted to have a very aggressive starting price. The price currently is based on the orders for this year, because we really wanted to make a statement on an available, very affordable car right now. But if you look to the competitors, it's a very aggressive price. I mean, we are not talking about, normally, I mean, we've been also quite a while in the automotive industry. Normally you see the Excel files where you try to be like 5 or 6% cheaper than the competitors. That's already a challenge, because you need to defend that. If you do the calculations, we are 20% cheaper than the biggest competitor of us. So that's, I think, already quite a statement.
Which are the competitors?
Who is a B segment SUV electric at the moment? That's the Hyundai Kona. The Hyundai Kona, that's the only B segment SUV electric. Of course, the e-Niro, but that's really in the higher segment. Any other questions?
Hello, Piet from the Netherlands. Do you have also some sales expectations already?
Yeah, also based on, for example, the demand currently in the Netherlands, we expect several thousands to be sold already this year. Thousands, so 2,000 or 3,000 are sort of the expectation. But it's not. It's a bit the other way around. I mean, you see that with other OEMs that first the target is set off volume, and then all the markets have to find out a way how to sell them. With us, it's a little bit the other way around, because we have sufficient supply. It's not that we have to scramble to get more vehicles. There's one thing that we have, the supply chain. The other thing is also to be very transparent. The Chinese market is decreasing since the last 2 years, which means that we have sufficient production to move to other parts in the world. So it's the other way around. If there's sufficient demand in the next few years, I'm pretty sure that we will not get no for an answer if we order 10 times more than we currently are planning.
Is it the same car you send to Europe as they use in, or the same cars in China?
The car is the same. The connection
completely.
No, the charger is different. In China they use a different.
Except for the charge port, the charger system is different.
So we use in Europe CCS. Well, that's a bit. I mean, that's still something which needed to test basically, and that's something which we did in the beginning of the year.
Bjørn Nyland from Norway. How many units can you deliver this year to Europe?
If necessary, 4,500 more or less, because they are already being produced and shipped.
Okay.
But if there's the requirement to increase that, we can also do more.
Okay, so if let's say 10,000 people order it,
let's hope that then I will be very happy, because. But that I mean, realistically, it's just also looking to the markets. We have some time. I mean, normal customers don't expect that they're already used, especially in Norway, to wait for 9 or 10 or 12 months on the car.
Yeah, exactly.
If now they have to wait, I mean, currently, if you order the car now, today, if we ordered it as the central European headquarter, we get it in about 8 weeks.
Okay, good.
So there is that's luckily no issue.
Okay, thank you.
What is the supply chain in the Netherlands?
What do you mean with the supply chain? Yeah, basic supply chain, what we mean with that is the supply of all the parts which are related to electric vehicles to the factory in China. And for the supply chain in Europe is basically logistics. So we have logistics for the vehicles, which will be done by Koopman in Amsterdam. And of course the parts and services, or parts basically, warehouse will be in, or is already in Belgium, which we already are using. We have of course our sister brand Maxis for the light commercial vehicles. They are already using that, so it's basically copy-paste of that existing process already. And that's also something which I think, we know how to move 7 million cars. So that's something where, compared to some of the other starting OEMs, especially from the Chinese, who never produced a car or are looking for partners in that, it's easier said than done. To produce a car, when you have everything in place, then it's okay. But to get everything in place really is the challenge. More questions? No? Then I would invite you to, part of you will now start driving the car and part will can stay here and also have the one-on-one interviews with me and with Dr. Poel. So thank you for your attention and have fun with the car, and we see you during lunch all together. So thank you very much.